Story 1. AITA for calling out a coworker for tragedy farming? I work at a very decent company in Europe. The office is very diverse and multicultural. We have optional development sessions we can join that the company pays for. I decided to join how to handle stress, as it's something I know I am not the best at and want to get better at it. Session starts, group of roughly 20 people, most I've worked with on projects before, some people I've only known from passing. At the start of the session, we are asked by the facilitator to go to a whiteboard and write out 3 things that stress us out. One of them we have control over, one of them some control, and one of them no control. We all had some normal things to share, like, I get stressed out by tight deadline, I get stressed out when my dog vomits on my new drapes. We all did as asked and provided one situation for each category. And that's when he, let's call him Martin, stood up, went to the board, and decided that after a fairly light-hearted mood, he will walk up and say, I am stressed out by the bombing of Kiev, the missiles Russia sends to kill Ukrainians, and the news I read every day about Russia's attacks on Ukraine. Not only did he manage to fuck up the first task of the session, he also completely killed the mood in the room. For context, Martin has Ukrainian roots, but he was born and raised in Czech, where our main office is. He's never been to Ukraine, doesn't speak Ukrainian, and has been rude to the Ukrainian cleaning lady we have multiple times about her fleeing Ukraine. The Svetlana is a refugee. Her husband is fighting in Kiev. For more context, Martin developed a reputation of pulling out the Kiev, my hometown that I've never been to, is being attacked right now and I just can't focus when not keeping up with his tasks. I've also heard rumors about him using this tactic to gain sympathy specifically from women. For the next task, we are assigned to pairs and we go over the things that we put on the board and suggest to the other person how to deal with their situation. Guess who I fucking got? I thought I would try to start the dialogue by asking Martin which points of his are supposed to fit into which category, to which Martin replied that all the points are something he has no control over. Okay, making it pointlessly fucking difficult for me, but hey, I was there with genuine intent to learn. I told Martin that he could try to pay less attention to the mainstream media, which only reports the big impact things, which are usually negative, and instead focus on the smaller newsletters. I even pulled up a bunch of articles on my phone about AIDS being sent to Ukraine, etc., showing that most of Europe is accepting refugees and there are big subsidies to integrate them into society, etc. Martin stared at me as if I broke into his home and kicked his dog in the nutsack and asked me if I'm serious, and said the articles aren't true, that he's never heard of a refugee help program happening in Czech. I asked Martin if he's kidding, as there were Ukrainians in that session with us who were hired as part of that program. I also reminded him of Svetlana, our cleaning lady, who is not only part of the program but one of the regular speakers for our company regarding the program. Before I could get another word in, Martin said he knew our dialogue would be bad because his stress factors are so much more stressful and impactful than mine, and decided to point out the one I put into category I have control over, which was public speaking. So Martin decided to yell out to the room if he could have everyone's attention, that I would like to share with the whole room. My lungs fucking sank. I have issues speaking publicly even when preparing for it for a week. I legitimately couldn't even swallow, felt like my throat was spasming out. 20 seconds of complete silence followed, after which Martin clapped and said, never mind, I guess David doesn't take this session seriously. I tell you, those words kickstarted my entire system back up like a diesel engine. I just wanted to say that one of my newly found stress factors is watching Martin use the situation in Ukraine as his personal bag of excuses and predatory practices for his benefit, and I think it's disgusting. We were both asked to leave. We have the HR talk on Monday. AITA? Story 2. AITA for buying my husband and kids flight tickets and not myself to Europe? So my in-laws this year are having their 50th wedding anniversary. Of course we all as a family really want to go, and they also want us to come. The issue is that we live on a set income, and even though we have been trying to save enough funds, tickets for 4 of us, myself and husband plus 2 kids that qualify as adults, are costly. To add to that, we have 2 dogs that are up for their yearly shots that would need boarding. So the total to make this happen would be approximately $7,000 just covering tickets plus dogs. In addition, one of my kids, to avoid giving away too much info, is going to start secondary college this fall in another country and will need at least one of us to fly there to help move them, since the flight has restrictions on luggage and sending things like packages is even more cost prohibitive based on location. Now I have lost my stepdad unexpectedly, which caused me to start on a years-long severe depression. Then after that, my dad died, and then my mom. In between, I've lost many key family members, including both godparents, aunts and uncles, etc., as many have also due to COVID and such. The reason I'm giving that info is because I know the regret that my husband will have if he misses this chance once his parents are gone. Time is not something that you can't go back. Right now though, he has always been adamant that he doesn't want to go unless we all go as a family. With that being the case, the amount of times we have been able to go back to see his parents since he's came to the US in the past 20 plus years is less than 5. So, today I found tickets from an airport 3 states away that we could afford for him and or kids to fly from if I stay home with the dogs, eliminating boarding costs and postponing temporarily their shots for a month, and I drive them to that airport and then I pick them up. I got the tickets, and after breaking the news to him and having his mom on the phone to help me, he now isn't talking to me. The trip would be approximately 2 weeks. AITH? Short version, my husband refuses to travel unless all of us, myself and our 2 kids, go together to visit family in Europe, which is expensive. The only way I found to make it work were only getting 3 tickets so he could be there for his parents' anniversary with our kids and me staying home with the dogs and being the driver to get them to a distant airport and picking them up. I don't want him to regret not being there when his parents are gone, because I know that feeling of not having parents anymore. Now he's not talking to me. AITA? Enjoying the videos? Make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell to enjoy more dank wizard Reddit content. Story 3. Wibta, if I spoke up to my friend who treats me inappropriately? Hello, I am very unsure what to do at this point. I, 20F, have been dealing with my friend, 20M, treating me very inappropriately for years, and I feel like I can't tell him to stop. So for some background, I've known him since my freshman year of high school. He was in 8th grade at the time. We stuck together and eventually there was a friend group with the 2 of us in it. Now the situation really started when I was 17. I don't exactly know what changed, but he would make comments about my boobs all the time. How he wanted to see them, touch them, etc. At the time I didn't really care because I had low self-esteem, and having someone talk positively about my body made me feel better. Sadly, I did start to feel like people who gave me any sort of attention like that I had to have a crush on and not talk up about how it actually made me feel. So when he started dating our one mutual friend who was in the same grade as me, I got upset. I actually just liked our mutual friend more and hated the PDA they were doing. Both of them started flirting with me after a while, and at one point I, as compensation for something I forget now, I showed them both my boobs, but it made me start to realize how uncomfortable I was. Things were okay for a bit, but then I started to date someone who I'm going to keep info about very limited because of certain things, but it felt like my friend just doubled down. He asked my boyfriend if he could share when I told him no. My boyfriend was poly, so he didn't care. Then I was talking about getting thigh highs in our Discord server, and my BF enjoyed the idea, of course, but so did my friend. He came over to my house at some point after I got them, and he found them. He threw them at me and told me to put on the outfit I planned on putting on to send a pic to my BF. He went through my underwear drawer and found my shapewear bodysuit and my black lace bra and threw those at me as well. I told him no, but he kept asking and wouldn't drop it. To try to get him to stop after it had been going on for a while, I said I wouldn't cause his partner wasn't there and it felt wrong. He called his partner on FaceTime and turned the camera on to me. I just defeatedly put on the outfit and then covered myself up with my comforter after it was on for the rest of the time he was in my room. There was another time when I went to the fair with him and his partner, and he kept making comments about me being their third and saying the 3 of us should do certain things together. His partner seemed very uncomfortable with these comments, but he kept talking about it. After that there were a few other things like encouraging me to take my bra off when I was drunk and things like that. Eventually I went to college and had a few actually healthy relationships. My one ex made me realize that I don't need to depend on people and that I have worth without other people's words. My other ex absolutely hated my friend and was pissed at the idea of letting him in the same room as me. Lastly, my most recent ex, 20M, didn't like what I told him my friend did, but he didn't want to hate him if he was still my friend. When he came to visit me, he soon changed his mind on that. We hung out with my friend and his partner one day because they wanted to hang out and I wanted my friends to meet my BF. We went to the mall and we went to Spencer's. Almost the entire time my friend kept pointing out lingerie and asking if I'd wear it if he bought it for me. I would just laugh awkwardly and say maybe, like my normal response to him, while my BF would say he'd wear it instead. He was and still is an amazing person and I miss dating him every day. After we were done at the mall, my friend kind of forced his partner to invite us to the camp. The camp is a place his partner's family owns that is basically used for hanging out, getting drunk, or keeping their family over when they visit. We went to the camp and drank as we sat in the hot tub. My friend said his goal was to get me drunk enough to talk about my kinks. When I'd stand up in the hot tub, he would reach his hands to catch me if I fell, but his hands were right in front of my tits. We eventually got out of the hot tub and went back in the camp and started to play some games. My friend got a swap shirts card, so he swapped with me. This is fair cause we were the only 2 bigger people. He was wearing a tank top with very open sides and I was wearing my nightgown. When we swapped, the tank top kept moving to the side and my BF would pull it back to keep me covered. We spent the night, and after we left my BF told me how he didn't like them either. How he thought I should never be talked to like that and how it was obvious I was uncomfortable. Again, I miss him every day and kinda hope that we can get back together after a few things settle, but I also know not to hang on that too much. The reason I'm posting this now is because yesterday my friend was at my house again. He was fixing my computer for free, which is another reason I feel like I can't complain. There was a thing going on in town, so him and his partner asked if I wanted to go with them. They offered to pay and I said sure. They joked about how they could get me to do anything if they paid for it. Called me a mooch and such. He joked about how much I'd owe him if he kept track, and then I jokingly said he'd own me in a way. Then he took it and talked about me on a leash and collar on all fours. I just ignored it a bit and started to get an outfit ready. Then of course they made jokes as I tried to get dressed about how I should show my tits as payment for the computer. I paid for my food up in town regardless. Extra information is that this friend also doesn't care about any emotions. Like when I went through my breakup, I didn't even get a text. Instead he told me he didn't want to pity me, so I might have some resentment towards him for that. This friend has also told me I should make an OnlyFans account and stuff like that, but I'm kinda done with it. I don't know if I should speak up and talk about how it makes me feel, because this person is a very hard person to talk to and I'm afraid to cause a problem in our friend group. So Wibta, if I spoke up about it? Story 4. What do I do? AITA. I, 23F, have a sister who is 27. I am currently dating someone, 24M, for 8 months now. Him and I are very close and are confident that we are each other's forever person. We have a very healthy relationship and have began discussing what our future looks like together and when we might choose to move in together. However, my sister and I are starting a manicurist program in the fall, and there were conversations about us moving in together, but recently my priorities have shifted. In order to understand the problem, you have to know the backstory. Although my sister and I are 4 years apart, when I was a teenager we grew very close. When I turned 18, her and I moved into an apartment together in October of 2020. She was in cosmetology school and working, and I was between colleges because we had recently moved to a new state and I hadn't gotten started yet. At first, when we moved out, my sister started to make friends at her school and began to be out all the time while I was at home because I didn't really have interest in going the places she went or wasn't old enough, aka bars. Because she wasn't around very often, I started talking to people online and I met a man we will call Dave for this story. Dave and I bonded while my sister was out with her friends all the time, and by the time she got a boyfriend and calmed down on partying, I had started to be in a relationship with Dave. Well, call my sister's boyfriend Carl. When my sister and Carl started to hang around more, I focused on Dave. It wasn't healthy, but I didn't realize at the time that Dave was toxic. One day my sister called me while I was FaceTiming Dave and was yelling and angry that her rapist had been found unable to stand trial and she threatened to kill him. I told her that she couldn't say things like that and told her I was busy. It's not a moment I'm proud of, but I can't change it. That day she chose to go to her boyfriend's house instead of coming home. She fell asleep at his house and he woke her up and told her to go home. On her way home she had a seizure behind the wheel. She hadn't had one since she was 13 and she was 22 at the time. She shattered her hip and to this day hasn't fully recovered. She has to use crutches, but back to present day, my mom and my sister want me to take partial blame in her accident because she says I made her feel like she couldn't come home. They tell me that I put my boyfriend above her and I can see how they feel that way, but 4 years later it seems like I'm still expected to pay for that choice. My mom caught wind of the fact that my BF and I had discussed moving in after my sister and I finished going through a manicurist program together. We were supposed to do cosmetology together so that I could learn nails and she could learn hair, but then the school separated them into 2 different programs and you can't take both at the same time. And I would like to add that I was willing to still go through cosmetology with my sister even though it didn't benefit me in any way, but my mom convinced her that the nail program would be a better fit and convinced her to let all 3 of us do the class together. When my mom began yelling at me because she was upset that my BF and I were talking about a future that didn't involve my sister, my dad told her that I shouldn't be expected to put my life on hold until my sister is ready to be independent. And she didn't exactly say it, but in so many words she basically said that she expects me to. This makes me question if my mom truly has my best interest at heart. It started to feel like I'm expected to make all my life choices based on what would make my sister happy, not what makes me happy or what's best for me. My sister and I moved back in with our parents a year after her accident and am the one who takes her places she wants to go and to grocery shop. My mom takes her to DR appointments. After all of this, my boyfriend and I have discussed moving in together as soon as possible, but doing it in a way that she wouldn't find out until I was gone. My mom is very controlling and makes it very hard for you to be able to do anything she doesn't agree with. She even has rules for my boyfriend and my relationship that, of course, revolve around how my sister would be hurt. I have told my BF that over want to discuss it with my dad, who has previously told me that he doesn't oppose my BF and I living together and see what he has to say as well as speak to my therapist, but I'd also like to get the general public's opinion. So AITA for possibly leaving my sister and my mom behind to start a life with my boyfriend after waiting for 4 years for my sister to recover? Story 5. Am I the jerk for calling my friend sneaky? First time posting here and I'm genuinely looking for advice on this situation as it ended very abruptly and I didn't get much closure. So for some context, I, 21M, have been in an online Dungeons & Dragons group for around a year now, and have been friends with some of the dudes in the group for much longer, some IRL, some never met IRL. Anyways, I considered myself closest to the DM as I knew him the longest, technically for around 4.5 years, and it's why I joined the group. I played for a year and had lots of fun with these guys. I'll label them with the first initial of their name as to not expose them. There was me, S, and then the DM, M. We also had players H, Y, R, and K. All male, and roughly the same age. Totaling as 1 DM and 5 players. We had one general Discord server that we always played D&D in, but also hung out in lots of other servers together, mostly different friend groups of each player, making their own server for their friends, myself included. Now, that being said, everything was smooth sailing, we never really had any major fights, always got along, etc. That was until I made a custom character with the DM, M, and started playing it in the campaign. At first it seemed people had some complaints about how overpowered the character was, so each time there was a complaint during session, I would go to the DM, M, afterwards and ask him if we needed to tweak or nerf anything for the character. I did this for 4 weeks. Each time, M responded saying the character was probably fine and he talked to the 2 players that kept complaining, K and Y. The main reason I talked to M outside of sessions was because the player Y would constantly go through the specific details of my character sheet, essentially, everything written about your character in D&D. So background, history, backstory, physical stats, abilities and spells, etc., and this annoyed me. I brought it up with M essentially explaining I was upset because M says the character is fine and hasn't actively changed anything about it, but Y keeps complaining, putting me in this awkward middle ground. So I explained I was privatizing my character sheet to avoid future disagreements and keeping things running smoothly during a session until something changes. I also explained that I wanted to go through my character sheet with the DM, M, one-on-one before anyone else looks at it, so that way if there were complaints, they went to M and not me. This, however, turned into basically the entire D&D group, K, Y, R, M, getting in a group call, and M shared my character sheet to them and they all explained what they thought was unfair. No one told me about this meeting, and to be honest, after telling M I didn't want my stuff shared like that, I felt like my trust had been betrayed. This also, of course, made me look like a bad guy, as to everyone else's perspective, I was a player who suddenly hid all their information after being confronted about it. So the players, K, R, Y, convinced M that I was cheating somehow. M brought it up to me in a very confrontational way and I was very upset. I had known some of these guys for years, and yet in a 24-hour period I had my trust betrayed, been thrown under a bus, boundaries broken, and now accused of something I didn't do. I voiced in the server that I was leaving the D&D group as this situation felt very toxic and immature to me, as well as explaining why I was upset as to what happened. They didn't like that. Essentially, the same day I complained in the server, there was a huge server voice call. Everyone from the campaign, myself included, were there, as well as multiple people who seemingly had nothing to do with the situation and were just in the server because they were friends of so-and-so. R and M led most of the discussion. It was about 2 hours long, and essentially what my takeaways from it was 1. They felt a duty to investigate me for cheating and felt I did. 2. What they did wasn't sneaky or untrustworthy because of said duty. 3. I shouldn't have been there during the secret voice call between K, S, Y, and M. I had brought up that if I had been there during this call, I could have explained the reasons they thought I cheated, so that they no longer were confused, avoiding this whole ordeal. 4. That I was the immature one here and no one wanted me in the server anymore because they lost respect for me. During this call I was yelled at, screamed at, compared to a criminal on trial. I'm 100% serious, and accused of cheating multiple times. Every time I was accused of cheating and they brought a specific example, I explained how it wasn't cheating and they forgot a rule or fact about D&D/my character that made that piece of evidence make more sense. But eventually, I had enough and just left the server on my own accord after being continually screamed at after asking not to be. My GF was also in the server, and playing in another group that used that server, and M just so happened to be the server owner, so he kicked her too. So not only was I treated unfairly, but I felt my GF was receiving backlash because of this situation she seemingly had nothing to do with, other than agreeing with me about how they were being sneaky. I expressed to all members involved in the conversation basically the rest of what I had to say. One of the members, K's boyfriend, joined the server and immediately used hostile and threatening language towards me because apparently the character I played was bothering K so much that they complained to their BF about it, so I was a bad person in their eyes. It was just a whole mess. I haven't really talked to a lot of people about this and feel mixed between if I should have just apologized and agreed with them, or stood my ground. Either way, I have now blocked all of them because I'm nervous they will say something that will further upset me. Was I in the right? If you have any questions, comment them and I'll try to respond. Again, first time posting here, so this could have just been a bunch of ramblings of a crazed man, or maybe you actually understood the story I was trying to tell.